Soccer Talk with the Soul is presented by New Mexico Pinon Coffee. Adam Deal, Ron Patel, and now joining us is Dan Lodge. He is our expert, literally, and you're going to find out why. He's going to talk a little transfer news. We're going to talk a lot about the EPL and some of the games that have already come up. Dan, an Arsenal supporter, as we are Liverpool supporters. Yeah, you know, they're coming here in a minute. First thing, you know, guys, is we were just talking about foot golf and some sponsors, and Body Armor being one of those sponsors.
Yes.
Talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so Body Armor is the official hydration partner of the Soul, and they produce a product that's a lot more, I guess you would say, natural than other competitors in the drink marketplace. It's actually a delicious drink. I find myself going and buying it now everywhere I go. If I need something to drink and I don't want water, I don't usually buy the other stuff. I do buy Body Armor. So they've got a pretty cool sponsorship with the Soul. They helped us all year round. They hydrated our athletes on the road. On the road trips, we took cases of Body Armor in the vans with us. And the guys loved them way more than other stuff. And then for the foot golf tournament, everyone that plays is going to get a Body Armor in their goodie bag. So maybe be drinking a Star Brothers beverage on the course, but if you get a little thirsty, you get to drink some.
We actually have a really cool promo with Body Armor.
Yeah, roll it.
Somewhere.
It's coming. I know it is.
Jason knows what he's doing.
Cue Body Armor.
It's like waiting for an answer.
We can hear it.
We can hear it. It's coming.
We only drank what they gave us.
There it is.
Our socks were high and our shorts were short. Our masks were terrifying. We wore fur. We searched for an edge. Sometimes that meant skill. Other times that meant voodoo. We went big. Really big. It was business up front and party in the back. And we didn't have a nutrition plan. That was it. This is now. Athletes have evolved. We are today's athletes. We are focused. We can push ourselves further. We're all players now. We have no offense. We demand better. And we're obsessed with what we put in our bodies. Sports have evolved. So has sports drink. Upgrade your game. Upgrade your Body Armor.
Anything with Gronk in it is pretty cool, right? So,
Yeah, James Harden, Mike Trout in there, Richard Sherman. These are the water bottles we use. All the guys use these on the fields during the games. I use it everywhere I go now too, so that's how I stay hydrated.
Well, very cool. Now we're talking World of Soccer, guys, and this segment presented by Recarnation Auto Sales. And look, we got to get right into it. The first highlight I want to go over in the EPL, Dan, is Liverpool and Arsenal. And for everyone who knows, who's watching, knows that you're a monster Arsenal supporter, one of the biggest ones I've ever met. And so Liverpool and Arsenal, they meet right in the first game.
Arsenal B squad. This is our youth team.
Let's get into it.
It started off pretty good. Arsenal looked pretty good for the first little bit here.
The same excuses you
Theo
were giving me.
surprisingly scored, you know?
Walcott makes it
There's absolutely
1-0.
nothing you can do about that, except for not give away the free kick.
How big has Coutinho been, by the way?
He's one of those players for me who's, you know, when he's great, he could play for any squad in the world. He's just absolutely talented.
And this was a shootout. Liverpool jumped up. It's 4-1, and then Arsenal tries to make their comeback a little bit late off a free kick here. The flick on is good, but it was too little too late, and so Liverpool does start off with the 3 points.
One
and I
of
know
those
that's
games that
frustrating.
if you're a mutual fan, you couldn't get a better game than that, right? 7 goals. It was kind of end-to-end. It shifted back and forth, some great interplay. As an Arsenal fan, ripping my hair out on the couch. You know.
I know he literally was. That's like
we had a couple of young center backs in there who, you know, looked good for a short period of time, but really got exposed by talents, right? I mean, you got Firmino and Coutinho and all these players who tear apart very seasoned center backs week in and week out, and you know, we were just very unprepared, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, but as you saw from that last, the third goal from Arsenal, the Liverpool backline has got to do better. Set pieces killed us last year. Obviously I'm a diehard Liverpool fan, but obviously the second couple weeks were not as.
That was definitely like an offensive showdown, but definitely, right? I mean, if you look at the performance there versus the performance the week after, I mean, just two different teams.
We lost 2-0 to Burnley the next week, and Really, we had 80% of the possession, and it just wasn't.
Just a bad loss, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we played Leicester the next week, and it was 0-0. So we had a pretty tough start of the season. We had a lot of players out with the Euros that weren't necessarily match fit, players who were rushed back. Ramsey, for example, he's extended injury now. So, it's one of those things where, I plenty more games in the season, although I absolutely despise losing to any of the other top teams because I got friends like you guys.
And I don't think Arsenal was planning on Wales making it to the semi-finals of the
Right.
Euros. So
Yeah. Yeah, and then all the English players are fit, but I mean, if you looked at Arsenal's starting lineup, we really don't have any English players anymore. So
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Arsenal here and the transfer window, and you say you're stress eating because of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you know more than anybody about the transfer window, so we'll talk about it here in a sec. But let's get to some of the more highlights, or better highlights that we have, especially from the first week. Man United, obviously, they went out and they did what we thought they would do and buy some players and spend some money, and so they took on Southampton, right? And so everybody kind of looking at their big guy that stepped up, Ibrahim, right? Ibrahimovic, and he has been so solid, guys. Everything as advertised so far for Man U. I mean, am I right?
He gets the distribution, right? I mean, I think last game he took 9 shots, which is the most of any player in the Premier League. He gets the distribution all the time. He's a monstrous, powerful forward. The Man United fans will always tell me, well, he was free. He's the 3rd highest paid player in the Premier League, which I wouldn't say is free. 35 years old, absolutely phenomenal.
How? 35? He gets better as he's getting older. He had 4 goals in the first 3 games, and so he's really kind of fit in.
I mean, you look at someone like Ramadal Falcao, who just destroyed every league he came in. He came to the Premier League, and even though he played for Atletico, who was a pretty aggressive team, and they play counter-attacking football and this and that, he couldn't handle the physicality of the Premier League. And most players who come into the Premier League, they'll take a couple of months to get
Ibrahim
acclimated.
seems to be thriving with that more
He sat down and
physical.
scored goals. I
Yeah.
mean, he is just a natural goal scorer.
It started in the Community
perfect
Shield.
target
He
man.
scored in the Community Shield the first game.
He scored in like almost every game he's played
First
so
2
far.
games, he scored 3 goals. And there was a rumor that MLS was going to dare to Zlatan there for a while.
Right.
And I didn't think it was going to happen, but it would have been cool to see him over here. I'm sure you disagree because you like to see players in Europe. But,
I do, yeah.
But I think, obviously, as much as it kills me to say, he is a great fit over.
We look at someone like
United.
Thierry Henry, who had a very successful career in Europe, right? And as he kind of tailored down, he moved to the MLS, where there's really no signs of Zlatan slowing down, right? I mean, there's no point in him coming to the MLS just yet. If he can still play for Paris Saint-Germain and Man United and all these top teams who are really going to compete.
I know this. I mean, we talk about he's getting better with age, but that's going to have to die off here soon. And then when it does, he's going to understand that, and then he's going to get the big payday in the MLS because he will. He'll get a big payday in the
Or
MLS,
in
and then he'll come
China. Who
over
knows?
here.
Oh, absolutely. China's paying ridiculous amounts of people right now. But the thing about Zlatan as well is he's lost a little bit of his pace, you can see when he plays. But the thing is when you've got people like Rooney, who's got great distribution, and then, Martial, Mkhitaryan, Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata, Paul Pogba, Schweinsteiger, and list all these players that Man United have bought. I mean, doesn't really have to move. He could pretty much just stand on the penalty spot and get
just put it in the
40
back of
crosses
the net.
a game.
Reminds me of you as a player.
I don't run at all, right? I mean, if only I was as big and strong as good as Zlatan,
Let's check out some more highlights. We've got Chelsea as they opened up, and some of the bigger names have been acting like some of the bigger names, unlike last season with Leicester, who struggled a little bit, right?
Hazard has played more good
Fantastic,
games this
right?
year than he did in all of last year. Absolutely unmarkable again.
So Chelsea, they start off.
Oh, it was Watford with
I
the
mean,
1-0.
excuse me,
I was sitting
Watford.
at Star Brothers watching this saying, Watford's up 1-0 on Chelsea. Oh,
Didn't last too long, right?
Batshuayi has had a pretty good start, considering he's not really actually started for Chelsea at any point, but he's scoring and assisting. Diego Costa being the nuisance that he is, already causing drama with his aggressive play, right? I mean, I think twice already, in my opinion, he should have seen red before he scored the winning goal.
Yep.
And then he comes out and says that he gets judged unfairly, which kind of blows your mind a little bit, right? I mean, he's known as a hothead, and he gets away with more than most.
Manchester United was very disappointed last year. Obviously, so was Chelsea, right? And so both of them with pretty hot starts to start out here in the EPL.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Man United, and I think Man United last year, I think Van Gaal, even though the results weren't terrible, right? They kind of competed slightly and this and that. But I think what Man United fans really didn't like is the style of play. And what Mourinho's really done.
Fly, it's
I don't know.
ridiculous.
Must be filming
It's
outdoors.
just annoying as a Man United fan.
He wants a little camera
like
time.
the one
He just wants a little
sitting over
camera
there,
time.
Yeah, Man United really, it's actually enjoyable to play. Right, you watch it and you see the Pogba with, you know, his little trickery and his moves and his distribution. Rooney's not really a deep-lying midfielder and he's not a forward. He's kind of just a catch-all. He sits there and he distributes the ball.
A little bit different from earlier in his career, isn't it?
Right, you know, he was the Ibrahimovic guy, the guy you stick up front. He's got a little more pace and this and that. He's kind of taken a subdued role, which is perfect for him since he's lost some pace and he's lost some ability. But I mean, Man United, I would say they bought smartly. They spent a ton of money, but they've bought some really good players, right? Mkhitaryan was fantastic for Dortmund last year. Not really even played too much this year so far. Ton of potential, definitely a contender. Chelsea as well, shored up that defensive midfield with Conte. Hazard back to looking at his best. Batshuayi is scoring goals but still can't get in the starting 11 because Costa continues to produce late on. They've got a phenomenal squad.
But it's hard to define what spending smartly is. I mean, these inflated transfer fees that come now with all the money that's coming in the TV deals in the Premier League. I think something came out today that the Premier League has spent $1 billion on players this
absolutely.
year.
I mean,
it's crazy. It's insane.
Well, you look at Pogba was 105 million, right? I mean, that alone is going to push your transfer spending pretty high. If you look at that aspect, right? So Chelsea right now is looking to re-sign David Luiz, who they sold to Paris Saint-Germain for almost 50 million. They're going to buy him back, and it's rumored to be around 32 million. And you're like, okay, in my opinion, David Luiz was not a good defender when he was at Chelsea, and it's probably worse since he's been in League One. Less competition doesn't make you better. So he's going to go back. Whether that's a good transfer or bad transfer, you guess gain 20 million. Pogba, you lost 104 million to get a player back, but world class, right? I mean,
let's take a look now at one of the other powerhouses in the EPL right now, and as Man City took on Stoke, right? And so
Pep has probably made the biggest impact of a manager, in my opinion. If you see Raheem Sterling play the way he's been playing this season,
I think he's inherited a more well-rounded team than Jose Mourinho inherited at Man United.
And you got to think that they don't even have like Leroy Sane playing yet, and they're already just so ridiculous in offense.
So a couple early, and then we go to the second half, and Stoke's going to get that PK back, right? So makes it 2-1, and, well, City wasn't done. A little fortunate here, but nice 1-2, and then...
Yeah. Back again, knock it in. They've got so many good players.
Classy.
Nolito's been fantastic since he came from Spain. You know, it's really hard to pick a starting 11 for City right now. Obviously, Aguero's not going anywhere, so Iheanacho's going to have to wait his time. But if you look at the front, and you've got Leroy Sane and Silva and all these players that they've now purchased with Nolito, and it's De Bruyne and Sterling. How do you pick a starting lineup? Great problem to have.
One thing I think I can say clearly, there's not going to be a Leicester type story, even Leicester themselves, right?
I mean, Hull City is making a good start, but it's going to fall.
I think the powers that be saw this and said this is never going to happen again. They spent their money, they made their moves. Everyone drastically changed their teams like they needed, and it seems to be working for the most part. You look at through 3 games played. If we check out the standings here, Man City, they're on top along with Manchester United and Chelsea. They all with 3 games, 9 points through. Right, we'll have those standings here in just a second, but there they are, and tough to see. But you know, the 3 at large there are really acting like it, right, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the surprises are your Hull Cities and your Middlesbrough. I mean, Middlesbrough signed Negredo, who came from City, went back to Spain, came back. He's looked really lively while he's been there. They've made some pretty good transfers during the season. You know, they picked up Valdez for a keeper. Hull City hasn't had a bunch of drastic changes. I mean, with the Premier League money coming in, I didn't really think they strengthened that much. That's more of the Leicester City hard work ethic that's going to get them there. But I completely agree. I'd be shocked if they weren't in some sort of relegation battle.
Those standings, by the way, thank you to ESPN.com where we snagged them from. But we went top 11 and not top 10 because we wanted to include Liverpool. They've got a head-to-head win against Arsenal. That's fine, right?
So I guess the question is, and again, as much as it kills me to say this, is which Manchester club do you think will win the Premier League, or do you think there'll be another club?
So it's really hard.
He thinks
right?
Arsenal's going to win.
I would love to say Arsenal is going to win. If I was going to bet money on who I think is going to win, Manchester City is just too strong.
Even over United?
I do, and the reason I say that is because, like you said, the foundation was there for City, so they're building on an already very strong foundation. They're so offensively unbelievable that I think that the consistency of the foundation will probably outdo Man United. With Man United having players kind of coming and going, I think the cohesiveness isn't necessarily there. Martial hasn't looked really the same as he did last year. You can only rely on Ibrahimovic for so long. They're an injury away from,
And teams,
I'd say,
and teams will figure out what
They
to
will,
do about
right?
Ibrahimovic. Yeah.
You think so?
I think they will.
Yeah, I don't know.
you can know what
Because
to
he
do and
finds
not be able to
different.
stop.
He finds different ways to score. Ibrahim, right?
You know, it's basically like watching the Lakers and Shaq, right? I mean, everyone knew what Shaq was going to do, but can anyone stop Shaq from doing what he was
Right.
going to do? No.
Ibrahim can score in the air. He can volley.
He's a
He can bring it
monstrous
down.
guy
He can go
with
through.
Great
He can just do a lot.
He's physical, and most defenders don't like the physicality, right?
Okay, so let's move on a little bit, and I know you know more about this than anyone I've ever met. Transfer window. Talk about some of the moves you
Yeah, what's
think
going
may or
on?
may not happen.
Oh,
What's
man.
new?
Yeah, deadline days today, so there's a lot of crazy things happening. Arsenal, thankfully, signed a couple of players. We got Mustafi, he's a centre back, pretty legit, and definitely a step up and someone who can kind of mentor the Rob Holdings in our team, the younger players. We've got Chambers going on loan to Middlesbrough. We've got Jack Wilshere probably going on loan. That's going to be more of a fitness play. Personally, I think
Will he make the train or will he be injured?
Probably. Well, that's the thing, right? He's probably going to get injured, so we're essentially paying less wages. I'm the kind of person that has seen Arsenal had injury problems and depth issues through the years. So I would say, why would we let someone go on loan knowing we have historical issues, right? So
Yeah.
Arsenal's kind of iffy. Chelsea signed a lot of really good players, looked kind of weak defensively, looking at David Luiz. Man United still rumored to be looking at the left back. Fabinho from Monaco is their primary
I wish
target.
Liverpool were looking at a left back.
I don't
A
see
lot of backs.
Milner might be coming back to
Yeah,
play, but
well-
it's going to take a while to learn the position.
Well, he said he's trying to learn it as quick as possible. I don't think that's a great fit for him, to be honest. He gets forward well. I just don't think he's the defensive-minded player you need. Chelsea's good.
Yeah, I think Liverpool
United
keeping the
spent
ball and
so
building an
much
attack
money.
really isn't the problem, right? It's
Yeah.
structural
It's
defense.
defensive.
Yeah, I still think there's not going to be. I think David Luiz is probably going to be the biggest transfer on deadline day. Although Leicester is rumored to be spending about 60 million on Adrian Silva from Sporting Lisbon.
Where does he come up with this?
Islam Salami, I think is his name, and he's a forward, and he's very Jamie Vardy-esque. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up, since they've got Vardy, Musa, and if they sign him, who are three forwards who,
And
in my
Musa's an
opinion,
exciting
are
player.
the same
I've
player.
enjoyed watching
But
him.
you know, it's
Okay, so
Mahrez as well. It's kinda
Before we get out of this segment, we saw the top of the table. Do you foresee anybody making a run into that? I mean, for example, like Tottenham or somebody on the outside.
Tottenham's kind of playing it tough in the transfer market. I don't think they've really made any signings.
Tottenham's being Tottenham.
They were chasing people like.
So what is the
Wilfried Zaha.
hashtag there? That's so Spursy.
So Spursy, right? Well, there's so many things. That
But everyone says they started out bad. I don't think they started out bad. They just started out slow.
but it's just,
Harry Kane hasn't scored a goal. You can't go into your season with him not scoring a goal. You got
Sure.
Jansen who came in, who's really not going to replace Harry Kane as your goal scorer. They're linked with players like Wilfried Zaha, who, if you look at, that's a typical Spurs buy. But it didn't work with Townsend. It didn't work. They've got a list of players who essentially they've had a failed tactic with that they're trying to replicate again. So I don't think Spurs will make top four. I think it will be definitely the way that the top three are now. You know, Man United, Man City.
Been handed a bulletin. I think we've got one more highlight to go through here.
we've got another highlight.
We got another set of highlights from
That's-
the first few weeks of the season.
Okay, let's throw it up. Jason Poole's the
Looking at
man.
Hull
I mean, he's
City
got it.
versus Leicester City. This just in, kind of, sort of.
Right. Breaking news, even though it happened, 3 weeks ago. No.
Leicester,
Yeah,
I think
take us
there's
through
a lot
this,
of
Dan.
expectations, with
Look at that.
what a goal.
That's a finish.
That was
huh?
one of those
This
that
was
you
week
have
one.
when you have two players going for a bicycle kick. It's always interesting, Mahrez scoring like he did a lot last season. I think he started off pretty well.
But Hull City, as we alluded to earlier, knocking off the champions in week one.
Snodgrass, right? Came from North City.
Is Leicester, I mean, they're probably just still partying from last year, right? That's what I'm
They're
guessing.
trying to recover, right? And I think that, what benefited them last year was there was zero expectations over this team, right?
Now there's
it's fighting
heavy
relegation.
expectations.
Now everyone goes, you are defending
Yeah.
champions, right? The bar is now set up here, and you've got all these players who are not, they're not used to kind of being the guy who's supposed to produce and the team that's supposed to win every game.
So where do they finish?
Mid-table.
Mid-table.
I think mid-table.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they're relegation battle. You know,
It hasn't. They haven't started well.
They're
That's
spending
that's
some
for
money, and
sure.
I would say it's reasonably wisely, right? Adrian Silva's the captain, so I think he's gonna
well,
bring
can they
some
start to
leadership.
find some of that magic from last year?
Yes and no, right? I think they got a lot of help from the referees last year. They've got a lot of favorable penalty calls.
So now it's the favorite.
I would say, look, they earned it, right? They had a lot of 1-0 games and stuff like that. They were very good on them. Like I said, a lot of favorable calls. But I think, honestly, you can only have one season playing the tactics you play before everyone kind of figures you out. You know, you get your Atletico.
And they just don't have the depth or
Your Atletico
the
Madrid
star
can
talent, I
constantly
think.
go to counterattacking because you've got someone like Griezmann who's so creative that you can't.
I don't want to
do
talk about him,
anything.
please. Please. I don't want you
But
to bring
you
him
know,
up
you
again.
get someone like Leicester and Jamie Vardy, who's, I wouldn't say a one-trick pony, but you can kind of expect defenses to probably sit a little deeper. I don't think they got the creative enough midfield to really penetrate when people. They don't really have a
Well,
plan B.
Leicester just let everyone have the ball last year and then counterattack and
counterattacked.
score. And then this year, teams are going to say, well, all right, you have the ball.
Right.
And
That's
I think
going to
why they
throw them
finished
off,
mid-table.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to know what to do. So, I mean, absolutely. I think mid-table team. I don't think they're going to, turn any heads.
You going to be EPL again this Saturday, Sunday? You going to be at?
Yeah,
you gonna be at Star Brothers?
this weekend's international break, so John and the staff at Star Brothers get to sleep in a little bit, but they've been wonderful so far, opening up early on Saturday mornings. We're trying to create more of this soccer culture that we talk about, and it's great. I mean, week one we're in there, we've got Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans, there was Tottenham, Crystal Palace, Manchester United, all represented in one bar. When you go up to Denver, there's like 3 of these bars that are just packed every weekend, and that's what we're trying to build here, and Star Brothers has been awesome in facilitating that.
Yeah, and actually sitting there and watching a game with other fans, it's exciting. I mean, you get to see people get all worked up and people
You're one of
yelling.
those guys
I'm one
that
of the
Blood
ones
just
for
going
it.
like
Yeah,
this.
I'm borderline throwing chairs sometimes for emotional games. So absolutely, it's just exciting. Right?
And just
I mean,
having to sit next to Larry when Ibrahimovic scores.
Nobody wants any of that. Nobody wants any of that. We're going to come back. We got a little bit more for you. Soccer Talk with the Soul.